Ever get that feeling, that little nagging sense that there's, well, more to you than just this? Like you're playing a part, but you're not quite sure who the real you is underneath it all.
Oh, absolutely. Or why we get so swept up in emotions, ups and downs, like we're just passengers on a ride.
Exactly. Feels like a roller coaster sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You just want to find the off switch. Okay, so let's really get into this today. Because this deep dive, it goes right to the heart of those kinds of questions about the self, about real freedom.
That feeling of being limited, that deep down search for something more. It's pretty universal, I think. And what we're hoping to do today is sort of distill some really profound wisdom, give you a way to understand these big issues maybe a bit quicker, like a shortcut to some timeless insights.
Today we are diving deep into Chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita. Its actual title is Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga.
Which basically translates to the yoga and the division of the three gunas, gunas being these fundamental qualities of nature.
Right. And for our exploration, we're leaning on Swami Dayananda's Gita Home Study, some brilliant classes by Swami Vidya, and of course the classic commentaries from Sri Sankara.
Our goal, really, is to pull out the absolute key insights from these amazing sources, make it accessible, without getting totally lost in the weeds.
Okay, so three main areas we'll hit.
First up, self-knowledge. This huge idea, the discovery that the individual, the jiva, is actually one with the divine, with Iswara, or God.
Then, second, we'll look at how to get free from the influence of those three gunas we mentioned, sattva, rajas, tamas. What does it mean to be gunatita beyond the gunas?
Yeah, that's a fascinating part. And finally, we'll unpack the benefits. What actually changes when you gain this self-knowledge? What are the implications?
So we're aiming for a good conversation here, pulling out the crucial stuff for you in a way that hopefully clicks.
Let's jump in.
All right, first big topic, self-knowledge, this oneness idea, jiva and Iswara. Now, if we look at Sri Sankara's view, who's actually doing the teaching in the Gita.
Well, the text itself makes it clear. It's Lord Krishna. But what Swami Vidya really stresses is how vital the teacher's authenticity is. You need that trust, that shraddha, and the devotion, the bhakti, towards the teacher for the message to truly land, to actually have an effect.
That makes sense. If you doubt the source, the words just bounce off, right?
Exactly. And Sri Sankara adds another layer. He says Lord Krishna, as Bhagavan, didn't just create the universe, but also its underlying order, its vyavastha.
The inherent system of how things work.
Precisely. And Swami Dayananda brings this right down to earth. He points out how our everyday tasks, our karma, if we do them with the right attitude.
Like without being totally focused on what's in it for
Yeah,
me.
right. Dedication, offering it up. That transforms those actions into a kind of worship. And that practice over time builds this inner readiness, this citta shuddhi, that eventually makes you genuinely long for self-knowledge.
So daily life, done right, actually prepares the ground.
Interesting. Okay, so what's the absolute core teaching about who we are, drawing from the Upanishads as the Gita presents it? The punchline, really summarized so beautifully in the Gita, is this radical idea. The individual soul, the jiva, isn't separate. It is Brahman, the ultimate reality, God. And Swami Vidya notes that every single one of us, deep down, whether we realize it or not, is searching for that unconditional freedom, that lasting happiness. It's wired in.
But that clashes so much with how we usually feel, doesn't it? We feel so small, limited, separate. Where does that feeling come from?
That feeling of being boxed in, separate. Swami Dayananda calls it moha, delusion. It comes from a fundamental mistake in identity. We think we are the body. We think we are the mind, the thoughts, the intellect, these things that are always changing, that aren't permanent.
We identify with the container, not the content. Or maybe not even the content, but the changing states.
Something like that. It leads straight to feeling finite, like we're just this body that's going to die, separate from everything else, like a wave thinking it's totally separate from the ocean it arises from.
A cosmic case of mistaken identity.
Pretty much. And this ignorance, avidya or maya, it's not just not knowing. It's an active misunderstanding, a distortion lens. Swami Vidya uses that classic analogy. You see a rope in the dark, you mistake it for a snake.
And you feel real fear, even though it's just a rope.
Exactly. The fear is real, the danger isn't. Our perception of ourselves is similarly skewed by this basic mistake about who we are.
Okay, that rope snake thing really clarifies it. How does this mix up with the body happen so convincingly in our experience?
Well, Swami Vidya explains there's this incredibly close connection. The self, pure consciousness, and the physical body, they're intertwined. Because of this closeness, the body seems to take on the qualities of consciousness. It appears aware, alive, thinking.
So we naturally conclude, this thinking, feeling body must be me.
Precisely. It's like consciousness is a light shining on the body, making it seem alive, and we identify with the lit-up object instead of the light source itself.
Mistaking the reflection for the reality.
Yep.
So what does Krishna say about the jiva's real nature then, behind this illusion?
Krishna's declaration is powerful. The jiva might look like a limited piece, but in its essence, it's eternal, limitless, unbound. Swami Vidyatmananda uses the analogy of space. When we focus on the walls of a room, space seems divided, chopped up.
Right. You have this room space and that room space.
But really, the walls are within the one undivided space. Similarly, the body, the mind, all these forms, they exist within the infinite field of consciousness. Consciousness isn't in the body is in consciousness.
Wow. Okay. So that feeling of being small and separate is just perspective, where we put our attention.
Exactly right. Getting past that ingrained feeling of smallness is the whole game. That's how you realize your own inherent limitlessness. Swami Vidyatmananda even mentions this mind-bending idea. Sometimes it's described as Brahman itself, under Maya's influence, seemingly forgetting its wholeness and identifying as a limited part, just to show how deep the illusion runs.
That really stretches the mind. So how do we start to untangle this? How do we see past the illusion?
The scriptures, the teachings, and especially a living teacher who embodies this understanding, they act like a mirror. Swami Vidyatmananda says, you start to see yourself reflected in their words, in the teachings. It starts as intellectual understanding.
But it can't just stay intellectual, can it?
No, absolutely not. That initial seeing needs to be deepened. Through reflecting on it, manana, contemplating it, and then steady meditation, nididhyasana. It's a process. Listening, reflecting, assimilating, until it's not just an idea, but your lived reality.
It's a journey of integration, not just a single aha moment. Okay, that leads us perfectly into the second big piece. Getting free from these gunas, becoming gunatita. Let's recap the gunas first.
Right. The three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, they're like the basic threads woven into the fabric of nature, prakriti. Swami Dayananda breaks them down. Sattva is purity, light, knowledge, happiness. Rajas is passion, activity, attachment, restlessness. Tamas is inertia, darkness, ignorance, delusion.
And chapter 14 says, these gunas, coming from nature, bind the real self, the Atma, to the body. How does that binding work? Sattva sounds pretty good, light, happiness. How does that bind?
That's the subtle trap. Even sattva binds. It binds you through the very feeling of, I am happy, or I am knowledgeable. As Swami Dayananda highlights, true freedom, the unconditional kind, is beyond all qualities, even the nice ones. Any label you stick on yourself.
I'm successful and spiritual, I'm intelligent.
Exactly. Any of those complexes, those notions, they create a boundary. They define you, and therefore they limit the limitless self you actually are.
So even our positive self-image can become a kind of golden cage.
In a sense, yes. A comfortable cage, maybe, but still a cage. It prevents the recognition of your unbound nature. And that's where gunatita comes in, the state of being beyond, having transcended the pull and identification with all three gunas.
Okay, transcending them. How is that even possible? They seem so fundamental to experience.
Well, Swami Vidyatmananda points out something crucial. It's not the actions themselves that bind you. It's the attachment to the results of those actions. And, coupled with that, the sense of doership. That deep-seated feeling of, I am the one doing this, I am responsible for the outcome.
The ego getting involved. That links straight to karma yoga, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Acting without clinging to the fruits.
Precisely. Karma yoga is key. Doing your duty, your actions, without that desperate need for a specific result, offering the action itself. It's a huge preparatory step. Swami Vidyatmananda also talks about sannyasa, renunciation, having two levels.
Okay.
There's the initial, maybe more obvious kind, physically giving up certain actions or possessions. But the deeper sannyasa, the real renunciation, comes from knowledge. It's realizing the self is actionless, that you, in your true nature, are not the doer.
So a true sannyasi isn't necessarily someone who stops doing things in the world.
Not in the ultimate sense. The real sannyasi is the one who has dropped the sense of being the doer. That identity is gone, dissolved through self-knowledge. Swami Vidyatmananda mentions how the wise person, whose doubts are gone because of non-dual knowledge, isn't bound by actions anymore. Their karma becomes, in effect, a karma. No new binding results.
So the inner stance changes completely, even if the outer actions look similar. What about desires and expectations? They seem like major drivers of attachment.
Oh, huge drivers. Desire leads to expectation. Expectation, when unmet, which happens all the time, leads to disappointment, anger, sadness, suffering. Swami Vidyatmananda really emphasizes accepting outcomes gracefully, seeing whatever happens as prasada, like a gift from the universe or from God.
Accepting what is rather than fighting it because it wasn't what you wanted.
Exactly. That acceptance practice gradually loosens the grip of attachment. And he links true freedom to this willingness to just do what needs doing in the moment without constantly calculating what's in it for me. Is this safe? Will I gain from this? It's about letting go of that me who is the supposed doer and beneficiary.
Recognizing that actions happen through you or in your presence, but the actionless self isn't the one doing them.
That's the core realization. Everything happens within the presence of the actionless self.
Okay, that's a profound shift, which brings us to the payoff. Our third topic, the benefits. What happens when you actually gain this self-knowledge? When you realize this oneness and move beyond the gunas?
The biggest benefit, according to Swami Vidyatmananda, is freedom. Freedom from ignorance, avidya, and all the limiting ideas, the complexes that spring from it. This knowledge effectively dissolves sins. But sin here isn't about breaking rules. It's about the distorted perceptions born from ignorance.
So it's not about getting forgiven. It's about correcting the fundamental error in perception.
Precisely. It's getting to the root. And this process naturally brings inner purification, Chitta Shuddhi. And as we touched on, for the Jnani, the one with knowledge, their actions become a karma. They don't create new karmic baggage, good or bad, like the Gita says elsewhere, one who sees inaction in action.
And action and inaction, he is wise among men.
Right.
Right. So actions continue, but without the binding quality. What about the day-to-day impact?
It dismantles that primary delusion, Moa identifying only with the physical body that's subject to birth and death. And Swami Vidyatmananda stresses that deep desire for freedom we all have. It's not about achieving freedom later. It's about discovering the freedom that's already your nature. You are free. You just need to realize it.
That changes everything. It's uncovering, not constructing.
Exactly. And this leads to samatvam, equanimity, evenness of mind, because you see the one underlying reality beneath all the pairs of opposites, success, failure, praise, blame, pleasure, pain.
They lose their power to throw you off balance.
Their grip loosens significantly. You see the bigger picture. And this knowledge naturally fuels bhakti, devotion. When you truly know the Lord, understand your oneness, how can you not feel love? How can you not want to serve? How can you not offer up that limited ego?
It becomes the natural expression of that understanding.
Yes. Ultimately, self-knowledge is the realization of oneness with the Lord. Swami Vidyatmananda says it helps you see the one Lord everywhere, in everything. Your focus shifts from the changing forms to the unchanging reality behind them.
It sounds like a total paradigm shift, not just learning facts.
It absolutely is. And Swami Vidyatmananda also mentions how cultivating values humility, nonviolence, ahimsa, truthfulness, satya, detachment, vairagya. These aren't just good behaviors.
Yeah.
They are essential supports for gaining knowledge and, crucially, for abiding in it.
They reflect the understanding itself.
Right. They're part of the understanding taking root. Ultimately, this self-knowledge is presented as the direct, supreme means to moksha, liberation, full stop.
Wow. Okay, that's a comprehensive look. This deep dive into Chapter 14 has really illuminated, I think, the nature of who we truly are, how these gunas influence us, and the incredible power of self-knowledge to set us free.
And that core thread running through it all, that deep, undeniable connection between the individual self and the divine. It's always there.
So maybe something for you listening to reflect on as you go about your day. How do your own perceptions, your own feelings about yourself and the world stack up against these ideas? Does any part of this resonate particularly strongly with where you are on your own journey? Definitely some powerful food for thought.
Indeed. And if this conversation sparked something in you, exploring the Bhagavad Gita further, or seeking out teachings from traditions like those of Swami Dayananda or Swami Vidyatmananda, could certainly deepen that understanding.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
Yes, thank you. Until next time.